Good evening, everyone. My name is Inko, and this is Mordheim, City of the Damned, named so because of all these unfortunate motherfuckers, like this guy who, I don't know, must have got lynched. There's like, it appears to be some kind of woman or possibly a Mozart impersonator who's been murdered on the side of the road. And then, of course, there's this skull here, which, I don't know, seems to be quite pleased that it is there. But anyway, oh, not to mention this impish Warwick Davis-sized jester up in the left. For those of you familiar with the channel, I did a video on this game months and months ago when it was in early access, but just recently it has reached full release. I always intended to do, more videos on it, just doing battles, etc., etc., but I never got around to it because, primarily, I'm a lazy asshole. But now that the game is in full release, I've got, no reason not to, and in fact, this game is actually pretty fun. For those of you that need a bit of a refresher course, Mordheim is like a tactical, turn-based action game, which is loosely based on a Games Workshop board game of the same name. But not only are there turn-based battles, but there's also a mercenary warband management metagame, which is really interesting. And also, each of the four races has a mission-based storyline, a unique storyline. So that's very interesting. But anyway, I very much want to play this on my channel, so we may as well jump in here. I've already got a warband made by the name of Clan Mordkin, which in my imagination is like a sub-warlord clan that's, working for Clan Eshin, which is apparently penetrating into Mordheim for all the Wordstone, I would say. I have played probably 10 or 15 hours of this, but I have not yet played many of the story missions, so I don't really know what's going on. But first things first, here is our war camp where we can manage our warband. What we really need to do, though, is hire a bunch of troops. We've got a leader here, but we don't have any, grunts to do missions, so we can't buy any equipment or go to the campaign or do anything until we recruit some guys. So, I pressed the wrong button there like an asshole. Here is our warband, Clan Mordkin, which is Skaven, you can see. I chose Skaven because, well, they're just really incredibly fun to play, I find anyway. They match my play style very, very well. They move so fast, and you can just swarm people very easily. But anyway, Clan Mordkin, which, as I said, is, in my mind anyway, my made-up biography of the clan, like a sub-clan to Clan Eshin, which is one of the great four clans of the Skaven. And the leader of our warband is named Scurry Tailclaw. Now, I didn't come up with that name. I wish I did, because to me that seems like a really badass name. No, that is a randomly generated name. And Scurry Tailclaw is a lieutenant inside of Clan Mordkin. But we need a hero as well. So we can hire Lurksin Throatcutter, who is a Night Runner. Now, there's different types of troops you can see here. We've got a leader who is very powerful, a hero who is very powerful, and later on, multiple heroes. But we also have henchmen, which are kind of like your grunts. So this game is very much like a permadeath roguelike kind of thing. Think of it like XCOM. You go through troops so quickly, or at least I do, probably because I was really shit when I was learning the game. So we can hire troops, basically, that says you can spend money to hire people, which we all know. So this is Lurksin Throatcutter, and he is a Night Runner, which is basically an apprentice assassin. So you can see he's got these cool dual claw types things. And basically his proficiency is in like climbing and getting behind enemies and just slaughtering them. So we can hire him for 30 gold, like so. Boom. Okay, so there we go. Here's our gold up in the top right. We'll get to all these resources later. But for now, we just want to hire some troops, maybe customize them a little bit. And then, I don't know what all we're going to accomplish this episode. Probably just the setting up of our warband, I would say. Okay, so another great name is Scuttle Greyfur, and he is going to be one of our henchmen, but he is of the Warp Guard archetype. So he's a little bit bigger than his clan rat brethren, but it seems to me that these warp guards rather, are supposed to be armored quite heavily because it seems they are the only class that can use heavy armor. The other Skaven have to use either cloth or light armor. Most everyone can use light armor, I believe, but he seems to be the only that can use heavy armor, so I usually stick heavy armor on these guys, give them a shield, give them a melee weapon, and then they can just take hits instead of my heroes, for example. Or if necessary, my heroes can take the hits so that these guys survive or whatever. So we'll hire Scuttle Greyfur. There we go, and he can be one of our henchmen, one of 3. We can also hire his brother Nurk Greyfur. What are the fucking chances? Okay, so we'll hire the 2 brothers, the 2 Greyfurs, obviously, and then we can hire Throskabak Skittershank, which is a fucking hell of a name, but I do not like it. Okay, so Skittershank is a verminkin, which is basically your run-of-the-mill clan rat. So he's a little bit fleet of foot, and he is only able to use light armor, cloth armor, etc., etc. So I usually give these guys, I don't know, like a big halberd, or maybe they'll dual wield single weapons, because they can move very quickly and deal lots of damage if you use them quickly. So I kind of use these guys as like flanking forces, because they're better at like climbing and shit like that. So they're good at flanking. In addition, I would say that the Skaven kind of suck because they don't have a whole lot of like weapon diversity. You can see that they only have 5 weapons, which is pretty true for everyone save the heroes who can use dual claws, pistols, and warp swords, or whatever they're called. But mostly everyone else uses either a dagger, a halberd, a mace, spear, or sword, which is very different from, say, the Empire, who use like all sorts of ranged weapons. We only have 1. They use all sorts of melee weapons, maces, hammers, swords, spears, etc. So that kind of sucks. But anyway, we may as well hire Thorskabak Skittershank, and I don't think we want him to have that name. Maybe we can instead steal a name from Snats Shanks, Giznat Shanks. I think maybe there's a bit of a bug in the game because Shanks comes out so much. Like, I don't know, I'd say 1 in 10, maybe 2 in 10 vermin. I was going to say Vermintide, but Skaven is what I mean, have the last name Shanks, which is really annoying. So you know what, maybe we'll change this guy's name to something like... I can't think of anything, actually. We'll go... No, I can't think of a name. I want his last name to be Stab, I know that. We'll go Skits Stab. There we go. So that's his name, Skits Stab. Will be our lightly armored dude. Before we go any further, I think I would really like to customize these guys. I think I'll show you how I customize my my leader here, and then you can... we'll just skip. Okay, so yeah, my leader can use Weeping Blades and all other melee weapons that the rest of the clan can use, and he can also have Shuriken, which is the only ranged unit aside from pistols that the Skaven can have, and I find these things absolutely useless because the range is like one of the shortest of all ranged weapons. Ideally, they're supposed to be used in Overwatch, but Skaven are really good at closing the distance into melee. You can see here that movement is 8. I think most everyone else, their movement is 6 meters. Skaven is 8, so I mean, why use ranged weapons when you can close the distance and charge everyone, which is what I tend to do. So I kind of just fucking forget about these shurikens because they're just really weak as far as ranged units go. I don't think you're supposed to play the Skaven as ranged units. I think you're supposed to charge headlong into the enemy, swarm them, and kill them. So you can equip helmets and armor, etc., but at the moment we don't have any weapons at all. Nothing to speak of, aside from the shuriken we've removed from Scurry Tailclaw here. So we can immediately move into customization, but I would rather show you guys the skills. So, Scurry Tailclaw has a passive skill called Defense Breach, which means that his attacks will bypass dodge and parry. What's his name? Lurkson Throat Cutter, our assassin, has a skill called Fleet-Footed, which means every time he leaps or jumps, he will actually be able to move even further. So 11 meters for 1 turn, which is very good. As I said, this guy is really good for flanking around, jumping all over the place, and just stabbing enemies in the back. Now, our Warp Guard have a skill called Warp Immunity, which means that they are very resistant to negative buffs that you receive from gathering Warpstone to the tune of 700%. So, if at all possible, I use these guys to pick up Warpstone. These guys also have a Warpstone type skill, which is Warp Rage. When they pick up Warpstone, they actually increase their melee damage and dodge chance for 1 turn. So if possible, you'll pick up some stone and charge into someone with your clan rats. So you can kind of get an idea of how you're supposed to play each unit by taking a look at their passive skills. But I think for now, we will very quickly customize our clan leader here. So we're looking at his head. There's 2 models, which is bear or with wrappings. I think we'll leave him bear, so that you can see his wonderful, I would say, black with pimpled fur. There you go. Apparently black is like, if you're a black rat, you're 10 times the rat of any other rat in the Skaven clan, apparently. We're taking a look at his cape now, or sorry, rather his chest. And there's only 1 model, but there are many, many colors. You can take a look at these presets, which will allow you to just choose a quick color scheme for all of your units. But I think I'll go with a green and black color scheme this time, but I think I want his cape to be black and his shirt to be green, so I will instead manually choose some colors. Look at that. I already know somehow what colors I'm looking for. I want a green shirt. There we are. And we want his sleeves to be something like this. So you can kind of get an idea of how robust and how in-depth you can get with your customization if you really want to. We'll give good old Scurry Tailclaw here some really nice arm bands. But we want the leather to be dark, so we'll go with style 6. There we are. Now for his pants, we can go style 1 or style 2. Doesn't seem to be really that different. Style 3, style 6. There we are. I think we're going to go with style 6. Now for the final touch, we want his cape to be... we can go with like a burlap. Or alternatively, we can go with traditional, I don't know, cotton. And we want a black cape. So there we go. We've customized good old Scurry Tailclaw, and I'll go ahead and customize everyone else, but you don't have to watch that. I'll probably just zip right through it. And then we'll come back and take a look afterwards. Maybe we'll have time for a mission. I don't know. I'll see you guys in a minute or two. Alright, so I've customized all my rats. You can see that I've given the Greyfurs... Greyfur, who'da thunk? But now it's time to arm our rats. So we don't actually have any weapons aside from what these guys managed to scrape together when we brought them in. So we'll probably have to buy some stuff right off the get-go. So we have access to some halberds, some daggers, and maces. I think we'll want a dagger for, what's his nuts here, Skit's stab. Who'da thunk? So he's dual wielding right now, which reduces his melee damage by 30%. But the combat damage of both weapons is added, so it's kind of a trade-off. Also, it costs more offense points to attack with dual-wielded weapons consecutively, but that's not really an issue for henchmen. But basically, I've given him a mace because of its hit chance, but also a dagger because it bypasses dodge and parry. I think what we want to do is give our warp guards, not spears, I don't think, but eventually I think perhaps like swords and maces, because Swords, if I remember correctly, increase your parry chance, as do shields. So you can really bulk out, you know, you can focus on parrying with some of your troops if you want. But anyway, I'll give this guy a mace. I don't really want to give them spears right now, because spears are one of the weaker melee weapons. You can see the mace on the left does 17 to 25 damage. The spear does 13 to 23, but it's a trade-off. Because spears bypass dodge and parry chance, but you can only use a shield with a spear. So, I mean, it's also viable, I find, if you're going to give someone a spear just to remove their shield entirely, because when you leave them with an open hand, it increases their dodge chance, which will increase their survivability. So usually, maybe I'll give one of my lighter guys a spear without a shield, but these Warp Guard, I think I want them to have a shield most of the time, unless, of course, I buy a halberd and give it to them. Can I do? Yeah, I can buy a halberd. There we go. Which will reduce his parry chance because we'll remove the shield, but his dodge will be quite high, 30%. So we'll give him a halberd just so that he does lots of fucking damage. So we've got Scuttle Greyfur here with a halberd. We've got his brother Nurk Greyfur with a mace. Eventually we'll probably give him a sword so that we can throw tons of points into parry, because you can give your henchmen skills, etc. Some of them increase parry. And then Skit Stab will have a mace and dagger. Scurry Tailclaw will have his Weeping Blades, which poison enemies. Very nice. And Lurkson Throat Cutter will have these Fighting Claws, which bypass armor absorption. So he's good for flanking armored enemies and attacking them in the rear. So there we go. We have our Warband, 5 rats strong, and we can begin to complete some missions. So we can go into the shop, which you can access from that previous menu, and we can see all the items available. There's pistols, light armor, shurikens, etc., etc. None of this we need, but couldn't hurt to show you. There will be new items in 8 days, which is the 10th of Flukzeit in the year 2000. For now, though, we have to do a mission on the campaign. But right before we do that, though, I want to talk briefly about Skirmish, which will allow you to play missions against other players online. Either there'll be like fun missions, which are called, I believe, exhibitions, or there'll be contests. Both count towards your campaign, I believe. Or is it just contest? I imagine it's just contest. But anyway, I have not tried skirmish mode yet because I've been focusing on the campaign. In addition, I want to talk about the veteran system, which is a meta system that applies to all of your warbands. So you can have 12 warbands in total running concurrently. As I said, it's like a roguelike, so there's only one save per warband. But as you complete these tasks... on the right, you will gain points, which you can then put into skills, which will apply to your clan. So our current rank gives us plus 75 gold coins when you start out, so technically I'm only supposed to have 200 coins, maybe 150, but I started with plus 75. It is cheaper to buy and also sell. So those are our perks from the veteran system right now, but we may as well put some skills in. There's a bunch of skills here that we can look at. These contacts here will give you items every day. There's a chance, for example, this Armor's Apprentice, there's a 5% chance that you will receive a free shield or helmet every day from this guy, but we don't want that. What we want is Commander, which will reduce the upkeep for leaders and impressive warriors. So that's your leader, your heroes, etc. We'll get that. Our second skill, I think we want... maybe not merchant, but perhaps renowned, because that will reduce the cost to hire people. You do a lot of hiring because people die or get injured all the time. Speaking of, perhaps healer is another good one. I find that we want stuff to reduce the upkeep cost of our troops the most, because upkeep is an absolute killer. If you do really shittily and your troops get knocked out, you can't afford to treat them, and then the next day you have less forces available to complete missions, and it's just this downward spiral into complete and utter chaos. But anyway, I think I'll end it here. We set up our warband. We're ready to do a mission. If all things go well, today is Wednesday, and I'll put out another episode tomorrow, which will be the following Thursday, and then this series will now take up the Thursday slot of our rotation. So check back tomorrow, and we can actually play a mission, which will be great, maybe a mission or two. But for now, I think we'll end it here. We've got our little warband set up. We've got Clan Mordkin with Scurry Tail Claw backed up by his hero assassin Lurkson Throatcutter. Very apt name. We've got our two brothers, Scuttle Greyfur and Nurk Greyfur, who are our Warp Guard. And then we've got a shitty little clan rat by the name of Skitstab. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching this very brief video. Tomorrow we will go full swing into this campaign as the Skaven in Mordheim, City of the Damned.